Babaria Hemaxi and my ID number is D23DCE157. I am explaining you a software development life cycle. So first model is waterfall model. Waterfall model is a classical model used in system development life cycle to create a system with a linear and sequential approach. Waterfall model is a linear application development model that is used rigid phase. One phase is end, the next phase is beginning. The step occur in sequential, and the unmodified waterfall model does not allow developer to go back to the previous step. Means once the waterfalling, it cannot go to back. The phases of waterfall model. First phase is requirement gathering phase. In this phase, gathering requirements from stakeholder and analyze and then understand the requirements of the project. The second phase is design phase. In this phase, once the requirements are understood, the design phase is beginning. The third phase is implementation phase. The implementation phase involves coding the software based on the design specification. The fourth phase is testing phase. In this phase, the software is tested as a whole, ensure that meets the requirement and free from the defects. Development phase. Once the software has been tested and approved, it is developed to the production environment. Maintenance phase. The final phase of the waterfall model is a maintenance, which involves fixing any issue that arise after software been developed and ensuring that it continues to meet the requirement over time. Now I am explain advantages. Advantages first, easy to understand. Waterfall model is very easy to understand. Second advantage is individual processing. Third is clear milestone and working. Disadvantages, it is not suitable for complex project. Poor model for long and ongoing project. This model cannot accept the changes in requirement during development. In this model, risk management is not handled. Now I am explain application. Large scale software development project. Second is project with suitable requirement, and third is simple and well understood system. Now I am explain incremental model. The incremental model is a software model methodology that be used to build large and complex system. It is based on the idea of adding new features or increment to existing system instead of building the entire thing from the scratch once. Now the diagram. I am explain the phases of incremental model. First phase is requirement analysis. In the phase of the incremental model, the product analysis expert identifies the requirements. Second phase is design and development. In the phase incremental model of SDLC, the design of the system functionality and the development method are finished with success. And the third phase is testing. In the incremental model, the testing phase checks the performance of each existing function as well as additionally functionality. The fourth phase is implementation phase. Implementation phase enables the coding phase of the development system. After the completion of this phase, the number of the product working as a enhance and upgrade up to the final system. Advantages. Incremental model error are easy to recognize, easier to test and debugging, more flexible, simple to manage risk. Disadvantages, need good planning, total cost is so high, well-defined model interface are needed. The application of this model is the incremental model is used by leading software companies like WhatsApp, Windows, and MicroOffice. V model also refer to the verification and validation model. In this, each phase must be complete before the next phase start. V model is like a waterfall model. V model is a very disciplined model. Verification model, it is involve a static analysis method done without executing code, and the validation, it involve dynamic analysis method. Testing is done by executing the code. The various phase of verification phase of model. First, business requirement analysis. This is the first step where product requirement understood from the customer side. This phase content detailed communication to understand customer expectation and exact requirement. The second phase is design system. In this stage, system engineer analyze the and interrupt the business of the proposed system by studying the user requirement document. The third phase is architecture डिज़ाइन. इस फेज में आर्किटेक्चर स्पेसिफिकेशन को डिज़ाइन किया जाता है. And the fourth phase is module design. In the module design phase, the system break down into small module. The fifth phase is coding phase. After designing, the coding phase is started. It is based on the requirement. A suitable programming language is designed. Now, the validation phase of V model. Unit testing. In the model, unit test plan are developed during the module design phase. The UTP are executed, eliminate error at the code level or unit level. The second phase is integration testing. Integration testing plan are developed during the architecture design phase. The third is system designing. System test plan are developed during system design phase. Unlike unit and integration test plan, system test plan are composed by client business system. Fourth is acceptance testing. Acceptance testing is related to the business requirement analysis part. It includes testing the software product is user atmosphere. Now the advantages of V model. It is easy to understand like waterfall model. Testing method like planning, testing design happen well before the coding. It model save a lot of time. Avoid a downgrade follow of the defect. The disadvantages of waterfall model is very rigid, not a good for complex projects. Software is developed during the implementation stage. It is a very least flexible application. V-shaped model application is also similar with a waterfall model as both models are to linear sequential type. This model is used in the medical development field as it is a strictly disciplined domain. Now the following are the suitable scenario to the use model. The first one is technology used in V model is not dynamic and is well understood by the project team. Requirements are well defined and clearly. Product definition is stable. There are no ambiguous or undefined requirements. Now my friend Janvi will explain you the next model. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Janvi Gorajia. My ID number is D23DCE161 and now I am going to explain the iterative model from SDLC. The overview of the iterative model is iterative process that starts with the simple implementation of the subset of the software requirement and iterative enhance the evolving the version until the full system is implemented. The iterative means that repeatedly the cycle or the phases which are repeatedly implemented to the model is called the iterative models, and each iteration designed and modified are made new functionalities and capabilities are added to it. The basic idea behind this method is to develop a system through a repeated cycles and in the smaller portion at a time. And now we are seeing the model of it. There are build 1, build 2 and build 3. 3 steps are there. First, design and development, testing and implementation. Iterative and incremental development is a combination of both iterative design or iterative method and incremental build model for development. During software development, more than one iteration of the software development cycle may be in process at the same time. This process may be described as an evolutionary acquisitions or incremental build approach. In this incremental model, the whole requirement is divided into various builds. During each iteration, the development module goes through the requirement design, implementation and testing phases. Each subsequent release of the model adds functions to the previous release. The process continues till the complete system is all ready as per the requirement. So that's why it is it is called iterative models. The advantages of the iterative model is first, testing and debugging during a smaller iteration is easy. Parallel development can be planned. It is easy acceptable to every changes needed to the project. Risks are identified and resolved during the iteration. Limited time spent on the documentation and extra time on designing. Disadvantages: it is not suitable for the smaller project. More resources may required. Design can be changed again and again because of imperfect requirement. Requirement changes can cause over budget. Project competition date not confirmed because of changing requirements. Now we are seeing the applications. When the requirements of the complete system are clearly defined and understood by the development expertise, major requirement of the system must be defined initially. However, some functionality or a requested enhance may evolve with time to time. New technology is being used and is being learned by the development team while working on the project. There is a time of market constraint. Now the next will be the prototype model. The overview of the prototype model is the prototype requires that before carrying out the development of actual software, a working prototype of the system should be built. A prototype is a toy implementation of the system. A prototype usually turns out a very crude version of the actual system, possibly exhibiting limited functionality, capabilities, low reliability, and insufficient performance as compared to the actual software. In many instances, the client only has a general view of what is expected from the software product. In such a scenario where there is an absence of detailed information regarding the input to the system, the processing needs, and the output requirements, the prototype model may be employed. As shown in the diagram, requirement gathering is first, quick decision, પછી refining requirements, incorporation customer suggestion, build prototype, customer evaluation of the prototype accepted by the customer, design, implementation, testing, and maintenance. Prototype model is also known as a prototyping model, is an iterative development methodology that involves the creation of prototypes during the software development process. Now we are seeing the advantages of the prototype. First advantage is the user involvement. Second is early detection of issues. Third, improved communication. Fourth, risk reduction, enhanced product quality. And now we are seeing the disadvantages. First, time and cost. Second, incomplete requirements, limited scalability, miscommunication, and overemphasize or on aesthetic. Applications of the prototype. First is user interface design. Prototype is particularly useful when designing a user interface. It allows designer and user to interact with visual representation of the interface early in the process, ensuring that the look and feel meet user expectation. Requirements validation. Prototype help in validating and refining requirements by providing a tangible model. Stakeholders can better understand the system functionality and identify any discrepancies or misunderstand in the initial requirements. Complex systems. For project involving complex or a novel technology, the prototype model can be beneficial. Highly interactive system that requires a high degree of user interaction and feedback, such as a web application or a mobile application, can benefit from prototyping. User can experience the interactive aspect of the system earlier on, the provide valuable input. Thank you. Now my friend Jinal will explain Further, the model
Agile model overview. The meaning of agile is swift or versatile. Agile process model refers to a software development approach based on iterative development. Agile method break tasks into a smaller iteration or a parts do not directly involve long-term planning. The project scope and the requirements are laid down at the beginning of the development process. Plans regarding the number of iteration, the duration and the scope of each iteration are clearly defined in advance. Each iteration is considered as a short time frame in agile process model, which typically lasts from 1 to 4 weeks. The division of the entire project into smaller parts helps to minimize the project risks and reduce the overall project delivery time requirement. Each iteration involves a team working through a full software development life cycle, including planning, requirement analysis, design, coding and testing before a working product is demonstrated to the client. This is the diagram. Here the brainstorm, design, development, quality assurance, deployment. Phases of the agile model: requirement gathering, design, the requirement, construction, iteration, testing, development, the feedback. Requirement gathering: in this phase you must define the requirements. You should explain business opportunity and plan the time and effort needed to build the project. Based on this information you can evaluate technical and economical feasibility. Design the requirements: when you identify the project, work with stakeholder to define requirement. You can use user flow diagram or high level UML diagram to show the work of new features and show how it will apply to your existing system. Construction: when the team defines the requirements, the work begins. Designers and the developers start working on their project, which aims to deploy a working product. The product will undergo various stages of improvement, so it includes simple minimal functionality. Testing: in this phase the quality assurance team examines the product performance and look for bug development deployment. In this phase the team issue a product for the user work environment. Feedback: after releasing the product, the last step is feedback. In this the team receives the feedback about the product and work through the feedback. Advantages of agile model: frequent delivery, face-to-face communication, efficient design and fulfills the business requirement. Anytime changes are acceptable. It reduces the total development time. Disadvantages of agile model: due to shortage of formal document, it creates confusion. Crucial design taken throughout various phases and can be misinterpreted at any time by different team members. Due to lack of problem documentation, once the project complete and developers allotted to another project, maintenance of the finished project can become a difficulty. Because the over evolving features, there is always a risk of everlasting features. In few projects at the starting of the software development life cycle, it is difficult to estimate actual effort required. Applications: certainly, agile methodologies in software engineering have several practical applications: adaptability to change, faster delivery, customer collaboration, iterative development, efficient resource utilization, enhanced communication, risk management, transparency, customer satisfaction, and collaboration team environment. RED model. RED is a linear sequential software development process model that emphasizes a constant development cycle using a element-based construction approach. It requires means are well understood and described, and the project scope is constant. The RED process enables a development team to create a fully functional system within a constant time period. Business modeling, data modeling, process modeling, application generation, testing and turnover, whatever the things which are spoken. This is the in diagram RED model. Business modeling: the information follow among business information is defined by the answering questions like what drives the business process, what data is generated, who generate it, where does the information go, who process it, and so on. Data modeling: the data collected from business modeling is refined into a set of data objects that are needed to support the business. The attribute is defined. Process modeling: the information object defined in the data modeling phases are the transformed to achieve the data follow necessary to implement a business function. Process and descriptions are created for adding, modifying, deleting, or retrieving a data object. Application generation. Automated tools are used to facilitate construction of the software. Even they use the 4th GL technology. Many of the programming components have already has been tested since already phases reuse. The reduces the overall testing time, but the new part must be tested and all interfaces must be fully exercised. Advantages of the RAD. This model is flexible. In this model, changes are adaptable. Each phase is RAD brings highest priority functionality to the customer. It reduces the development time. It increases the reusability of features. Disadvantages are the highly skilled designer. All application is not compatible. For small projects, we cannot use the RAD model. On the high technical risks, is it not suitable? Required user involvement. Application of RAD model. RAD is a perfect for situation where app development specifically call for a quick development and deployment. It can be beneficial when the project require a dynamic approach. Now the spiral model overview. The spiral model initially proposed by Bohem is an evolutionary software process model that couples the iterative features of prototyping with the control and the systematic aspect of the linear sequential model. It implements the potential for the rapid development of a new version of the software. Using the spiral model, the software is developed in a series of incremental release. During the early iteration, the additional release may be paper model or prototype. During the later iteration, more and more complete version of the engineer system are produced. Here this is the spiral model diagram. Each cycle the spiral model is divided into the 4 parts, that is the objective setting, risk assessment and the reduction, development and validation, planning, risk driven. Each cycle in a spiral start with the identification of the purpose for that the cycle, the various alternatives that are possible for achieving the target and constant that exist. Risk assessment and reduction. The next phase in the cycle is to calculate these various alternatives based on the goal and constant. The next phase is to develop strategies that resolve uncertainties and risk planning. Finally, the next step is plan. The project is reviewed and a choice made whether to continue with a further period of the spiral. If it is determined to keep, plans are drawn up for the next step of the project. Development phases, it depends on the remaining risks. For example, if performance or the user interface risks are treated more essential than the program development risks, the next phases may be an evolutionary development that include the developing a more detailed prototype for solving the risks. Risk driven feature of the spiral model allow it to accommodate any mixture of the specification oriented, prototype oriented, simulated oriented, or another type of approach. An essential element of the model is that each period of spiral is completed by a review that include all the product developed during that cycle, including plans for the next cycle. The spiral model works for development as well as enhancement project. Advantages of spiral model: high amount of risk analysis, useful for large and mission critical project. It is good for large and complex project. It is good for customer satisfaction, strong approval and documentation control. Disadvantages are the can be costly, risk analysis needed, highly particular expertise, does not work well for smaller project applications or spiral model. The spiral model is widely used in the software industry as it is in a sense with the natural development process of any product, learning with maturity which involves minimum risks for. Thank you. Thank you.